A stalker is an aide who takes individuals through the zone, a spot situated external to an unidentified city, the aftereffect of an additional earthly attack. The state has shut it off from the rest of the world with spiked metal, and it is strictly confidential by outfitted police and officers. Inside the zone, there is the room, which is said to give one most unfathomable wish to anyone who enters it. Stalker opens with the credits moving on the foundation appearing of a pitiful bar. A climate of sadness is supported by odd electronic music. Before long, Professor Wallace tells about the abrupt appearance close by of a supernatural occurrence of Marvel, the Zone. The following scene shows a shabby room where three figures, a man, a lady, and a youngster, are sleeping together in a created iron bed. Close to the bed is a couple of supports. The man gradually gets up, dresses, goes to the kitchen sink and washes. The lady, his significant other, goes along with him and reproves him for getting back to his former ways, which will without a doubt land him back in prison. The man contends momentarily for her to release him, that he should go, and he, at last, shoves her to the side and leaves the room. As he leaves, his significant other condemnations the day she at any point met him and rebukes him for having generated such a kid. She tumbles to the ground, sobbing. The man, a stalker, goes to the waterfront to meet with a couple, a fashionable lady and a man, Ryder. He discourteously excuses the lady and, along with Ryder, strolls back to the bar displayed in the kickoff of the film, where a third man, Professor, is sitting tight for them. No sooner as these two men meet that they begin squabbling with one another. Stalker will direct these two men through the zone. The essayist clarifies that the justification for his excursion is to recuperate his lost motivation, while Professor's inspiration is simply logical interest. Stalker and the two men leave the bar for their hazardous mission into the zone. They pass through a forlorn metropolitan scene of separated and deserted structures, littered potholed roads, cautiously staying away from police watches. After at some point, sneaking behind a train, they enter through open entryways the support region of the zone. They stow away for some time and follow the train again through another designated spot, and meanwhile being taken shots at, they enter into the actual zone. Having taken shelter in an unwanted structure, they pull together and Stalker sends Ryder ahead to search for a rail route flatbed vehicle, which will take them inside the actual zone. The essayist loses in nerves and pivots immediately, reconsidering about proceeding with the outing, so Professor smoothly chips in for the mission. Every one of the three men ventures on the flatbed vehicle quietly and gravely through changing scenes in a solitary 3.5 moment odyssey to the zone. As they come to, the film abandons sepia tone to full tone. There is a striking differentiation between the lavish green, yet the littered scene of the zone and the haggard environmental elements recently experienced. The climate is still except the calls of cuckoo birds heard in the far. There we are. Home, finally, says Stalker and continues to discuss another stalker, his tutor, Porcupine. Before absenting himself for some time, Stalker hands Professor a few white materials and some steel nuts and advises him to attach a piece of this dressing to every one of the nuts. During his non-appearance, Professor relates the tale of Porcupine and of the zone. At the point when Stalker rejoins the gathering, their excursion through the zone starts, with Stalker from time to time tossing one of the nuts to demonstrate the way to follow. From the start, Stalker relates how risky and interesting the zone is, and that it requests regard. Decides that apply outside the zone are presently not legitimate inside it. For instance, the briefest way between two focuses is at this point not a straight line, yet a tangled way. As they before long show up considering the room, Ryder opposes this standard and continues straight on toward the room, yet holds back when he hears a voice cautioning him, "Stop, don't move." A Ryder returns steeply to Stalker and Professor, who swear that they had not verbally expressed a word. The teacher's idea that Ryder terrified himself begins one more contention hindered by Stalker, who again emphasizes the risk in the zone, brimming with dangerous snares, and what sort of people is permitted to go into the room. The teacher currently gets uncertain and wouldn't go on, however, Stalker deters him, and the gathering forges ahead. The teacher, having failed to remember his backpack, needs to return to bring it. Stalker lets him know it is inconceivable because it is excessively perilous. Stalker and Ryder proceed with their excursion, swimming knee-profound toward a cascade. Showing up at the course, Stalker sees that Professor is absent. Since it is absurd to expect to follow one way in the zone, they continue, and as they went through a passage in a tiled divider, they meet a peaceful Professor having a beverage by a fire, with his backpack close by, exactly where he had recently left it. Stalker perceives this as a snare. One more contention follows, during which Professor and Ryder toss gnawing affronts at one another. A long, confusing, and complex scene follows, during which a secretive canine shows up. This long scene is intricate to the extent that the positions and the spatial connections between the three characters continue to change in unnatural ways. The foundation of electronic music adds to the weirdness of the scene. Author and Stalker talk regarding the redemptive force of workmanship. A voiceover, which might be Stalker's spouse, recounts some scriptural section, thus does Stalker. A speedy cut shows the gathering showing up at the meat processor, a dim passage, faintly lit through the opening in the roof, and a story covered with puddles. The essayist is assigned in an track to go first, while the remainder of the gathering follows at a protected distance. At the point when Ryder arrives at an entryway, he takes out a gun, however, Stalker persuades him to discard it. They go on through the entryway, wading chest somewhere down in dirty water, up a flight of stairs, and into a room loaded up with big shots of sand. The author, who had continued off course, remaining close to a profound well where he has quite recently dropped an enormous stone, conveys a long speech regarding the vacancy of his life and the unimportance of work. Stalkers convey a sonnet, which was really composed by Arseny Tarkovsky, about destiny. In the accompanying scene, the triplet winds up in one of the little rooms lining a pool loaded with reject, and in which there is a phone. Note that this isn't the room. A warmed conversation starts in regards to every one of the men's genuine goals for needing to arrive at the room. Stalker drives the two men through an opening in the divider and stops at the edge of a splendidly enlightened room, and, chocked with feelings, he lets his mates know that they are presently going to encounter the best second in their lives. In the room, they will actually want to satisfy their most genuine desire. The author will not go in first, as he would rather not embarrass himself by prostrating himself. The teacher creates a handheld atomic bomb he had conveyed from the beginning in his rucksack, as he doesn't need the force of the room to be utilized by some unacceptable individuals for some unacceptable reasons. Stalker battles with Professor attempting to remove the bomb, with Ryder mediating a few times, tearing Stalker away from the professor. Essayist brings a wide range of allegations against Stalker, scrutinizing his thought processes and his genuineness. To which a weepy Stalker answers that he is a disappointment and that every one individual he brings to the room is additionally disappointments, yet he can by helping them. At last, Professor dismantles his bomb and tosses the pieces in the water. The last scene shows the three men sitting on the floor, outside the room, with Ryder, his arm over Stalker's shoulder, and Professor inclining toward their backs. In the following scene, in dark and sepia film, we are once again into the bar with the triplet waiting around the table, nearly as at the launch of the film. Outside are Stalker's spouse and his girl, Monkey. The spouse enters the bar and leaves along with Stalker and the canine, abandoning Professor and Ryder. Stalker is conveying his little girl on his shoulders. They stroll along a stream with the power plant behind the scenes burping steam. Once at home, Stalker is extremely discouraged, and his better half consoles him of his value. Direct to the crowd, she conveys a long speech, saying that regardless of the multitude of misfortunes she has suffered throughout the long term, she doesn't lament having hitched Stalker. She declares that their marriage was honored, since, in such a case that there would have been no distress, there might have been no satisfaction all things considered. The last shot, in shading, is a puzzling one. Monkey is heard in a voiceover perusing a sonnet by Fyodor Tyutchev. She then, at that point, seems to travel through supernatural power three glasses which are on the table. A train passes, shaking its meandering aimlessly stirring up with sections of Beethoven's Tribute to Joy, as the film disappears on Monkey's empty face. To watch more video like this, click on the videos on your screen, and don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. And at last I will say stay safe and stay healthy. See you next videos.